Close your eyes again and just settle in. We're going to work with some balance today and don't be alarmed. Okay. So if you're like, oh, balance, don't be alarmed. Just instead come into that deep state of groundedness that you can feel when your eyes are closed and you're settled into a good posture. And drop some weight into the hips. Feel that sense of yielding into the earth with your pelvis. Feel the long spine. Notice what gives you a sense of stability and spaciousness in your spine. Can you feel the plumb line from the crown of your head traveling right down through the center of you? Do you have a sense not only of connection to the earth, this yielding, this sense of balance, but also balance left and right, balance front and back, balance with the energy of the top half of you versus the bottom half of you, balance of the in breath and the out breath. Let's place our palms together and see if you can sense the balance of the two hemispheres of the body, two hemispheres of the brain. Come into that still point, that center point. And offer an intention from here. What do you need for your practice? And relax and open your eyes and just have a couple things to say about balance before we get going. First, balance can be two different things. It can be reactionary balance to an unexpected deviation, right? Like tripping on a sidewalk. And it also can be anticipatory balance, like you're bracing for something because you know you're going to need some extra balance. And then, of course, there's just regular balance that we do all day long when we're standing and walking and all the dynamic nature of movement. So, when we work toward cultivating balance, as we age, our balance starts to wane just a little bit. And to make sure that that doesn't happen and we have good balance, we need to keep strong in the ways that our body, the muscles, and the nervous system that we need in order to stay stable. So, the outside of the leg, so the peroneal muscles on the outside of your shin, all the way up the outside of your thigh into your outer glutes are really important for stabilizing you, as is your core. So, as is the elongation of your spine. If you are slumped or leaning, your balance will get a hold of you. You won't be able to get a hold of your balance as easily than if you have a bouncy, supple spine where your vertebrae have space to move. So we're going to work a little bit with the peroneals on the outside of your calf and the IT band and the gluteus medius on the outside of your thigh and glutes. And then we'll work a little bit with the core as well. So these muscle groups, when isolated, can help the nervous system light up. They can, if your nervous system is sleepy and you don't typically fire in a good sequence for balance, sometimes isolating those muscles can support the awareness in your body as well as strength in your body to turn and light up those muscles. But most importantly, is to take it out of the isolation and put it into dynamic movement. So balance is best supported by those two things, by isolating some things to make sure you're awake and strong, and then bringing those things into more harmonic movement patterns in the body. Because never when you are unexpectedly having a trip or something like that, do you just use one muscle group. You use your whole body when you're about to fall. So integrating those primary support muscles before falling is one of your best things you can do preventively. But then if you are in the midst of a fall, using those core muscles to help you come back online is really important. So we're going to work with some balance today. So let's go ahead and come off of your mat or your seat and come onto your mat. So lie down onto your back and feel a sense of connection to your breath as you just first enjoy the nature of just being on the floor. Okay, stretch your legs out straight, and we're going to start in the bottom and work our way up for warming up balance muscles. So first, just roll around your ankles. So having free joints, anytime you have a yoga practice of any kind, no matter what you do in your practice, it's going to help you with your balance because you're awake, you're present, you're breathing, you're in your body, your joints are loose, your muscles are open and free. So all these things help our dynamic balance. So first, just rolling, and then if you haven't switched, roll the other way with your ankles, just warming up some of the tendons and ligaments and muscles. And then relax for a moment and just rock your feet all the way from your hips. So just rock your legs a little bit. And then I think most of you know the term point, but just in case, a point in your foot. So you can point your toes like you have toe shoes on, like a ballerina. So point, point. And then if you only flex your toes, but keep the rest of your feet pointed, like you have a really high pair of high heels on, that is a point. Okay. And then flex your feet so your toes are flexing toward your face. So we're going to go back through those three movement patterns. So start with a flex, and then into a point, and then into a point, and then into a point, and then into a flex. And you go at your pace. You can move as slow or as fast as your body wants to go. Make sure you're breathing as you go from flex to point to point to point to flex to point. Okay, so just going back and forth, just opening up, articulating the feet in maybe a unique way, especially if you have shoes on all the time, which of course, if your balance isn't good, chances are you are wearing shoes a lot to kind of help you so you don't trip on your toes and things like that. But having the opportunity to have bare feet is a really good way to strengthen the muscles of the feet. Okay, now relax your pointing feet. Okay, and then we're going to imagine that you have eyes, open eyes on the bottom of your feet, and you're going to turn your eyes to look outward. So evert your feet, so the soles of the feet turn out, and then the soles of the feet turn toward each other, inverting your feet. So move from eversion to inversion, back and forth, and this will warm up those peroneal muscles. You have three of them on the outside of your shin, which are very important for balance poses. Or not just balance poses in yoga, but balancing when you're on uneven surfaces walking. These are the muscles that really help you propriocept and figure out where you are in space and how to keep your balance. So just going back and forth from inversion to eversion. And just notice if you have ankle movement that's different on one side versus the other. All right, and then relax for a moment and just feel your feet. Are they a little more awake? Are they a little more alive than they sometimes feel? The more you can use some bare feet, I know it's not always safe or good for everybody's feet, but when you have the opportunity to be barefoot, practice spreading those bones. Okay, bring your knees into your chest. Let's pull the knees away from each other and back in. So just going back and forth between opening up into some abduction and coming back to adduction. Okay, just warming up the hip joints. And then let's start to warm up a little bit of your core muscles. Right knee into your chest, left leg long, and then switch. And just kind of go back and forth between the two sides. Okay. Hugging in one knee, stretching the other straight. Just waking up the legs a little bit. And then go ahead and relax and put your feet on the floor. Windshield wiper your knees, just wake up some of the sideways, the hips a little bit here. So you need all your core muscles, but of course we need to find the transverse abdominis is probably one of the more important ones we need for balance, as well as the psoas. So we're going to just wake up and warm up those a little bit here. So come to a flat back, knees are pointing up toward the sky, feet are flat on the ground. And just notice, are your ankles a little fatigued from what we already did? So all of you have done this before with me. Put a teacup on your left knee, ground that teacup. If you like something heavier, put a sandbag on your left knee, put a rock on your left knee, put someone sitting on your left knee. Root into the pelvis and feel already that your psoas and your transverse abdominis are awake. And then open up your right knee out to the side without losing the stability on the left side. And then lift that right knee back up and switch your teacup to the right. Ground, root, knee into the pelvis, knee, pelvis into the belly, and then open up the left. So once you get the feeling, notice if you are holding your breath, because chances are that you might be. So let's go back and forth, stabilizing one side and moving the knee on the other side. Just come into the feeling of those deep, low core muscles. Make sure you're breathing well. Do you have a sense of being able to stabilize better on one side versus another side? And then relax. Go ahead and put a block between your thighs. You can have it on the thin or the middle height, whatever feels best and whatever place you want to have it. If it's real high in your inner thighs, probably the thin side is best, but if it's closer to your knees, maybe the medium width. And we're going to lift up into some bridge poses with a block, and we're going to come back down. So you get to decide where you want the block, how wide, and also where you want your arms to be. So you can do some rolling bridges where your arms lift up over your head, and as you come down, your arms come down at your sides. Okay, so find whatever works for you. So as your pelvis lifts, root into the soles of the feet. So we want the big toes, the pinky toes, the inner and outer heels. Find the four corners of your feet. Let them root as the arches lift. Gentle hug of the block, so that you're working with the inner thighs, help you integrate the core. So feel that as you hug the block, those deeper core muscles we were just working with are on, turned on, as your hips start to warm up through some bridges, up and down. Are you breathing? All right, let's go ahead and release the legs. Take the block out of there. Stretch your limbs. Arms and legs come wide on the floor. Wiggle your toes. Exhale, knees into your chest. Chin up. Find the breath. Open up your limbs, spreading out wide. Exhale, drawing in knees to chest. Let's do that one more time. Get expansive. Exhale. Draw in. Put your head back down. We're almost ready to get up off the floor. There's two ways to do this. I'll give you plan A, which is harder, and plan B, which is a little easier. We're going to just do drawbridges. So the knees can be either closer to the pelvis or right over the hips. Don't go past the hips. And we're going to just tap a heel and then knee back up. And then tap a heel and knee back up. Switching from left to right. And if you want a plan B, if that's too much for your back, feet are on the ground, and we're going to lift a knee and then slowly lower the leg back down. And then lift a knee. Both do the same thing as far as waking up your psoas muscles. The suspension is a little bit more challenging for your back. So don't make a choice based on, oh, I should do the harder one. Make a choice based on what your back is happiest with, because both are effective. How's your breath? How's your breath? Okay, we've barely warmed up the rest of our body, and here we are doing some isolation of abdominal core work. So how does it feel to be condensing before having a whole lot of movement in our spine? Now you can try, if you want, to point your toes and touch your toes down first. And if you're starting with your feet on the ground, you can start with just your toes touching and lift your knee up and only touch your toes. It's just slightly different. Make sure you're breathing. All right, and then let's go ahead and roll over. Bring your knees to your chest, roll over onto your side, and come up onto your hands and your knees. Okay, so let's start moving through some cat-cows, arching and rounding the spine, taking your time to notice Notice your vertebrae. Notice how nice it feels to move your spine around. Enjoy the suppleness, the way your vertebrae move. And then start to move the pose around any way you want to move the pose around. So you can swirl around in your hips. You can move and side to side, move your shoulders, move your head. Find your breath. All right, and then come back towards child's pose. Settle your hips toward the heels, stretch your arms if it feels good, stretch them way far out in front of you, make adjustments for shoulders that are unhappy. Walk the hands over to the left side and open up the right rib cage and take a deep breath. Relax the base of your skull and let your breath be here. So always when we're working with any type of thing in our practice, we want our breath to be here, and balance is no different. So find the breathing body. Walk the hands over to the other side. Relax your head. Deep breath in. Deep breath away. Relax your neck. Stay soft where you can. Eyes are melty. Feel your skin fall away from your bones on your face. And then come back to center and come all the way up to dog pose. Stretch through your spine. So we've already woken up our feet a little bit. See if you can pedal now. So knee bends, the opposite heel stretches toward the floor. Just going back and forth between your two sides, opening up the calves. And then find your steadiness. Yield into the earth. Feel the rebound through your body. Extend. Relax your face. Melt a bit. What can you soften? Can you feel a sense of widening the sit bones, a little inner spiral of the thighs? All right, great. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Fold in half. Feel free to shake things out. Move around, whatever feels good. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine is growing, the legs are long. Exhale and melt. Look how close you are to your feet. So bend your knees until you're pretty close to your feet. You can have a nice relationship with them. Spread open the bones. Notice how your feet move differently. You have different actions to spread out those bones. Feel the big toe mounds, the pinky toe mounds, the inner and outer heel. Rise all the way up. Find your breath. Reaching the arms to the sky if it feels nice to do so. Open yourself up. Breathe deeply. Lean back a little bit. Enjoy a little open heart. And then release your shoulders. Shrug a few times. Shake out your hands. And then find Tadasana. So let's first just find our ground, our yielding. Soften the knees. Soften into the earth. Get that sense that you are stable. So however you want your feet to be to make you feel that stability. And then we're going to rock forward onto our toes. Feel your core kick in when you lean forward a little bit. And then lean back onto your heels. Okay. And just go forward and back. Make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're not locking out your knees. See what it feels like to integrate all the way up into your core when you're trying to balance on the edge of your feet. Just a little integration. And then soften the knees. Yield again. Drop into the earth. Feel your full foot to all four corners. Reach down and then lift the arches. Drink up the arches all the way to the pelvis. Take a deep breath in. Arms coming up to the sky. Exhale and fold forward. Relax your head. Halfway lift. The spine grows. Exhale and melt. Have your feet hip-width apart. Squat down like a chair. Take your hands on either side of your knees, so palms on the outside of your knees, and have even pressure of moving your knees into your hands and your hands into your knees. Stay in your squat and just start to find that sense of strength in your outer hips. Extend the spine. Feel the four corners of your feet. Breathe here. All right, and then inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale and release. We're going to start this from one side. We're going to turn to the long edge of your mat. I have very little space, So if you have one of those stretchy bands that you can wrap around your side, don't do it now, but this is a good thing to do, the side stepping, crab stepping, to do with that strap around your thighs for some extra resistance. We're gonna stay low. You can bring your hands to your heart if you want, and we're gonna squat and walk sideways, okay? So you can just, if you have like a long hallway in your house or whatever, you don't have to stay on your mat. You can go further distance, but just see what it feels like to stay in a squat as you go from one side a few steps and then go the other way. And you can experiment. You can do different things with your arms if you want. Stay in a low squat, and we're going side stepping. And notice if you move your foot out faster than your knee, if you move your knee out faster than your foot, see if you can keep everything together, unified in your actions. We're staying low as we do this. Okay. So if you sense, so now come back to the center of your mat. And if you sense when you come onto one foot, we're going to do it in just a moment, but pay attention if on either leg, if you tend to, look at me for a second, if you tend to cave in, you know, if your knee tends to cave in when you try to squat, with two legs or one leg, you can feel this often with two legs too. You might have one leg that caves in. So notice that as we come into a simple standing stork pose. So bring your left knee up in the air and just notice if your right knee wants to cave in. And this is a sign that your outer hip might be a little weak. Those gluteus medius and minimus might be a little weak. Find your breath and a simple one-legged squat. Okay, it doesn't have to, you don't have to go deep with this leg, but notice if you cave in, if your knee wants to cave in. Okay, and then stand back up. Place that foot down onto the ground. I'm bringing my hands wide because wide often helps with balance, but you don't have to. Your hands can be anywhere you want. Lift your knee, stand on your left leg, hug that hip in, and find a little squat. And just notice, do you tend to cave the knee in? So find that outer hip muscle already. Breathing deeply, and then come back. Find your breath. Exhale and put your foot down onto the ground. Rise up, arms. Exhale and fold forward. Relax your head. Halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down again. Squat like a chair, hands on your outer knees. One more time, find the work of those outer hip muscles. Do you tend to, are you stronger on one side than the other? Do you lean into one foot more than the other? Find the breath and come right up into a chair. Imagine you're going to lift your right foot. Don't lift it, but just imagine you're going to lift your right foot and then yield your right foot. Imagine you're going to lift your left foot. Do you have better nervous system awareness? Do you go into that movement pattern of, yeah, I got that. I know what to do there, faster on one side than the other. Inhale, arms up to the sky. Exhale and fold. Step your left foot back. The right foot is forward. Come into a lunge. Extending through your spine. Enjoy here. Enjoy the openness of your hip flexors. And let's just stretch our hamstrings a little bit. Straightness your leg, tuck your chin, back and forth. Bending your front knee. Straighten your front knee. So one of the ways you can hack your balance a little bit, if you tend to get trouble with your balance, is widen your stance. So you can take your right foot out to the right more, or your left foot out to the left more, so that when you come up into crescent lunge, you have a wider base. Okay? Find your way up. Hopefully those outer hip muscles are awake. Reach your arms up. Another hack is to just take your arms wider. Think about people who walk on those tight ropes with a big pole, right? So your arms become your pole for balance. Open up through your heart, breathe deeply. You can put your arms anywhere you want. If you're testing your balance, close your eyes, put your head back, experiment with some ways that help you mess with your balance. Ground into the big toe. And then exhale and release your hands. Step back to a plank. Hold steady here, finding your breathing. Use your 360 core. Find your exhales. And then put your knees down and come onto the ground. Take a deep breath in. Cobra pose, opening the chest. Exhale and melting back down. Let's turn our toes out for a moment. So curl your toes under, lift your kneecaps up and turn your whole leg out. Take a breath and lift your legs here. Find the stability on your sacrum, hugging evenly. Deep breaths. And then exhale and relax your hips. Curl your toes under again, lift your kneecaps and put them flat on the ground. So ever so slight internal rotation feeling in your thighs. You can have your legs wide or a little closer and lift your legs up again. So notice the difference. The IT bands, the TFL, the tensor fasciae lata, which is the muscle, tiny little muscle in your outer hip, that the IT band is the tendon for. It's actually a hip flexor and it's also an internal rotator. So go ahead and rest. So we're going to do it a third time, when we lift the legs up and have a slight internal rotation in our thighs, even though we're not flexing the hips, we're extending the hips here, the IT band will turn on more than if we turn the feet out. So turn your feet out and feel that this relies mostly on the glutes. And now turn your feet in and see if you can feel that TFL help out. And then relax and melt. Come up onto all fours. Have some rolling around in your spine, swish and sway until you release the back bends in your body. Find your way back to dog pose. Long spine here. Have your hands rooting into the earth, yielding. Have your feet do the same. Can you open up? Can you have those eyes on the bottom of your feet spread out and looking around, feeling? Can your feet have as much sensation in their soles as the palms of your hands do? Spread out the bones of your feet. Isometrically pull your feet apart. Feel the kick in of those outer hips, the TFL, and the gluteus medius and minimus. And let's bring our left foot forward. Come into a lunge. Find your breath. Extend through your spine here. Let's bend and straighten. Just enjoy the feeling of stretching. Can you feel a stretch through your sciatic nerve when you straighten your leg? Root into the big toe. Pull the hip back. Decide how wide you want your feet apart before coming up. So if you know your balance gets a little lost when you come up into crescent lunge, try widening your stance. Feet a little wider, maybe arms a little wider. Decide what's best for your balance today. Even in a pose like this, notice if your knee wants to cave in. Perhaps place a hand to the outer knee just to remind that knee to help those outer hip muscles kick into gear so we're not collapsing and letting the knee fold into the midline. Have your inner thighs hug to the midline, but the knee stays in line with the foot. Extend your spine, breathe wherever you are. And then release your hands down and walk your back foot forward. Come and fold in half. Relax. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Come all the way to the floor for a moment. I promise we're going to get back up. So come to lie down on your right side. Bend your knees. You can always support underneath your head with a blanket or a block. So you don't have to have your knees directly at a 90-degree angle. They can be a teeny bit less or direct, whatever feels comfortable for you. So we're going to do some clamshells. And when we do this, try not to roll your torso. So we want to keep your shoulder over your shoulder, your ribs over your ribs, your hip over your hip. And we're just going to open up the knee and close the knee. Now, instead of letting, think about it like, you know how new trunks in cars are really slow on their close. They don't just like slam down shut. So have both
some activity slowly on the way up, but also slow yourself on the way down as well. So you're not doing anything super fast here as you move into some clamshells. So once again, we're isolating some muscle groups in the beginning here, and we're going to put it all together shortly. So the purpose of isolations is twofold. One, to strengthen, but it's also to get the nervous system to light up that channel. So if you tend to have a lazy neural pathway for certain actions, this can contribute to balance issues. So we want to light these neural pathways up. Okay, now straighten your legs. I think we did this recently. Hand is up in the air, and we're going to lift the leg as well. Turn the toes forward, engage through your core. Try to lift your mouse hole, so that little gap under your side waist, engage there so your transverse abdominis is fully kicked in. Have the work of the outer leg. Lift the pinky toe side of your foot up toward the outer hip. Breathe. Great, and then relax. Go ahead and come onto your back, bring your knees to your chest, and then we're going to roll over onto the other side. So now we're on our left. So same pose on the left, starting out with some clamshells. Support your head with a blanket or a block if you need it. And we're going to very slowly open up. So we're trying to stack. So try to keep your ribs, your hip, and your pelvis stacked so that we're not rolling the pose. We want the action to be really isolated in the hips. How's your breathing? Do you feel stronger, less strong? Do you feel, versus the other side, do you feel neural pathways awake? I'm like, yeah, I got this. I just have to think and then I do. Or is it a little bit more, the pathways in your body which you notice like, oh, I have to really tell myself what to do here. Those are cues to you to do those actions more often, because those are, pathways in the forest that haven't been traveled as well. So you need to do a little more bushwhacking to pat that path down in your body. How's your core? How's your breath? I have no idea how many we've done. I talk too much to count. So if it feels about even to you, we can go ahead and straighten our legs. Okay, so the whole body is straight now, stacked up. Lift your arm, we're still stacking. The worst thing that's going to happen with balance here is you're going to roll back or forward, so that's not a big deal. Lift your leg, internally rotate your leg. Notice if you have some weird compensatory patterns. Use your core. Lift the outer side waists. Hug them, cinch them like you're pulling in a drawstring of sweatpants. Breathe deeply. Don't forget to breathe even though you're working. Great, and then relax. Roll back onto your front and come up to dog pose when you're ready. Okay, so stretch out through your spine. Deep breaths. Hopefully you're feeling a little fatigue in the outer hips. Breathe here. Let's see if you can pull the pinky toe side of your foot all the way up to the outer hips. All right, and then let's walk our feet forward. Come into Uttanasana, fold, and then rise on up to stand. Breathing well. Okay. Send energy into 2 feet. Yield. Soften your knees. And then as we're ready to balance, stand on your right foot. We're going to pick up our left knee. So notice in this, one of the more simple balance poses, does your thigh bone of your standing leg want to push forward? Draw it back and soften your knee. Hug the outer hip in. Feel the outer feet lift to the outer hips. Notice those knees if they want to cave. Maybe your arms want to go high or wide. And we're going to open our leg out to the side. Find your breath. Turn to the right with your head. And then bring your knee back in. And now we're going to turn our whole torso to the left. Don't let the knees cave. Drop that thigh bone back. Use your outer hips. Pull from your pinky toe sides of your feet up. Long spine. And then come back to center.
2 feet on the ground, and let that go. Can shake your body out however feels good to let that release. 2 feet yielding. Enjoy your grounding. Stand on your left foot. We're going to lift our right knee up, finding a stork. Now already your nervous system has a head start because it knows where we're going. It's done this once before. Thigh bone back, hip in. Spread out your feet. Lift pinky toe sides up to outer knees. Maybe you have broad arms. Find your breath. Open up your knee out to the side. It doesn't matter how far it goes. Lift your spine, turn your head to the left. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to put your foot down, so really test your balance. Breathe. Try not to hold your breath. Use your core. Come back to center, twisting to the right. Drop the shoulders. Pinky toe sides of feet up. Use your core, long spine. Hug that standing leg, hip in, soften the knee. Come back to center, 2 feet on the ground, okay? You can march that out, you can jump it out, you can shake it out, you can just relax. Breathe. Yield your 2 feet. Come forward onto your toes, feel your core. And then relax. Okay, now the next couple of balance poses we're going to do, we're going to really mess with balance a little bit. So be prepared for letting the ego dissolve. Okay, so I want you to get to the place where you're not balanced. Okay, if you always stay in your little box of comfort with balance, you're not really challenging anything. You're not growing anything. So let's just test our balance. So we're going to be in tree pose. And you can have your foot high, you can have your foot low, you can even have that point toes touching the floor. Try not to let the hips stick out. So hug the hip in, the thigh bone moves back. Get long in your spine. Do you want wide arms? Do you want tall arms? Do you want midline arms? Okay. Find your breath. Soft knee, pinky toe sides of your feet lifting. And now I want you to keep, 2 things can happen to help you. You can close your eyes. That's a simple way to mess with your balance. We rely so much on our vision for our balance. Or lean your head back. Okay. You just see something. Do something that's going to mess with your balance. Keep lifting the outer feet. Keep engaging the core. Soften the knee. Keep breathing. And then come back to center. And now move to the second side. So you can shake out your knee, your ankle. Okay. And then find the other side. So chances are you have one side that you're a little better balancing on than another. And if that's the case, experiment. If for instance, going up and down stairs, if you like one leg better, if you're like, oh yeah, I feel more stable putting this leg down first, experiment. Consciously work with the other side as much as you can to get to a place where your body's balanced, left and right. Open up the arms high, arms close, whatever is working for you. Pinky toe edges lifting, core is engaged, knee is soft, hip is in. And then mess with your balance. Close your eyes. Maybe look up, lean back. Whatever's going to help you touch your edges of balance. So I'm really hoping you're getting to a point where you're falling out. Breathe deeply. All right, and then release and let that go. Jump, hop. Let's do a vinyasa. Let's move our legs a different way. Open up the breath. Exhale and fold forward. Lengthen through the halfway lift of the body. Step your non-dominant foot. Whatever foot you always take back, put the other one back. Dog pose. Long spine. Enjoy the length. Root into hands and feet. Feel symmetry left and right. Feel symmetry, weight of hands and feet. Enjoy the bigness of this pose. Breathe into the yielding. Come forward into a plank. Hold your belly steady. Turn your navel to the left. Chest faces the floor. Come back to center. Turn the navel to the right. Come back to center. Lower yourself down to the ground. Everything out. Arms and legs, big open wide pose. Maybe your arms are back. Find your breath. Exhale and melt. Pick up your feet. Relax your hips for a moment. Come back to child's pose or all fours with a little movement of the spine. Come up to dog pose. Open up the eyes on the bottom of your feet. Sense, feel your 4 points. Feel your arches lift, both the inner and outer arches lifting, especially the outer arches lifting. Breathing. Lift your right leg up in the air. Exhale, bring that foot through. Come into a lunge. Rise up to crescent lunge. Okay, we're gonna mess with our balance a little bit here. Come into Virabhadrasana 3 very lightly. So we're just a little bit leaning forward, not a lot. So don't go deep in the pose. Kick your foot back. So we're in extension. Reach through your crown. Okay, bring your arms straight out. Close your eyes. See how that feels. Now open your eyes and we're gonna touch your index fingers. Touch your nose. Back out. Other hand, touch your nose, back out. Now, see if you can do this with your eyes closed. Close your eyes, touch your nose. Breathe, back out. Stretch into your feet, reach through your crown. Just see how deep you can go into this. Closing your eyes, touching back and forth. Let go. Okay. Great, and then come up to stand. Put your 2 feet down onto the ground. Open your eyes, feel your roots, deep breaths. Okay, and let's root our left foot deep into the floor. We're just gonna step right back to crescent lunge here from here. Extend through your spine. Enjoy the openness of your hip flexors. And as we come into Virabhadrasana 3, you can start with your arms back or your arms forward or your arms out. We're not going very deep, so don't make your body parallel. Just kick into the foot, stretch, lift the pinky toes, engage your core, use the outer hips. And then hands out. Let's close our eyes for a moment. Just see what the pose feels like with your eyes closed. Stay breathing. And then open your eyes. Try one pass with touching your nose with your eyes open. Stay in the breath. Pinky toes lift. Soften your knee you're standing on. Engage your core. Now close your eyes and try to do this with your eyes closed. Breathe. Long spine. Use your core. Kick into the foot. All right, and then when you're ready, let go of that. Take your feet wide and just swing your arms. Let your hips move. Lift your opposite foot. Breathe your way here. All right, and then find the last standing pose we're gonna do. Take your feet wide on the mat. First, just turn your feet where they're comfortable, okay? Just get really big. And if you don't like your arms out, you can put your arms down. Whatever feels good. Just feel this broad, wide base. Support. Memorize the feeling of stability with your legs this wide. Okay, and then place your hands on your hips or your fists on your hips. Have a little bit of a power stance. Broad base. Nothing can move you. No emotional crisis can move you. No physical crisis can move you. No global crisis can move you. Can you do this fluidly without stubbornness? Can you yield into the wide stance? Okay. And
then fold forward. Bring your hands down onto the ground, turn your toes in. Lengthen through your spine, let your back rest. Okay, last time to turn toward the front of your mat when you're ready for a dog pose. Okay. Send your legs back, extend the spine, breathe deeply. We're going to come into pigeon pose with your right leg forward. Support however you need supporting. Okay, so if you need blankets, blocks, props, whatever it is that your body needs, take the support so you can be balanced across your pelvis. Inner spiral that back thigh. Lengthen your spine. Bring your head to rest wherever it wants to rest, on a block or on your hands. Decide how far you want to pull your foot out away from your pubic bone. All the little adjustments that you can make to find just the right spot for you to be in this pose. How is your breath? Melt what you can. Okay, and then relax and come out of this pose. So maybe you like dog pose in between. Maybe you like a different pose. Okay, so whatever is working for you. Support this side might feel very different. You might need totally different supports than you did on the other side. If you're on your back during reverse pigeon pose, you might be holding a different place. So just find what you are finding. What can you let go of? What tension is creeping in that you can surrender? Can you relax the eyes? Inner spiral the thigh. Feel the spine grow. Widen your sit bones. Melt what you can. Let's find our way up. We're going to come out of the pose. Come to lie down on your back and grab a strap. So first, just bring your knees to your chest. Rock around a little bit. And then left foot on the ground or left leg straight on the ground, whichever is best for you. Right leg lifting up in the air. Okay, wrap that strap around your foot. And before we go anywhere, invert your foot. So the eye on the bottom of your right foot, turn it to the left. So the big toe comes down toward your face. The pinky toe lifts up away from your face. Decide where you want your left leg to be, and we're going to cross the right leg over to the left. Now you can let go of that inversion now and just stretch through the big toe and the inner heel. Decide whether you want to hold with left hand or two hands. Decide whether you want your left knee bent or left leg straight. Move the hip away from the shoulder. All right, lift that leg straight back, 2 feet in the strap for a moment. Enjoy the symmetry. And then when you're ready, right foot on the floor or right leg on the floor. You decide left leg is up in the air, wrapped around, the strap is wrapped around your foot. Lift up into your foot, root down through your hip. Invert your foot. So toes, big toes pointing down, pinky toe up, turning the eye on the bottom of your foot to the right. Stretch the peroneal muscles in the outside of your shin. And then we're going to cross the right leg over while we're doing that inversion. Cross the right leg to the left leg to the right. Hold the strap in 2 hands or just the right hand. Whenever you're ready, you can unwind that inversion and stretch through the big toe and the inner heel. Move your hip away from your shoulder. Breathe here. And then bring that leg back up. Take the strap off. Bring your knees into your chest. Open your knees out and in. And then come into happy baby pose. If your spine enjoys that, so just see what your spine is needing. Maybe even rocking. Bring your knees over your head. All right, and as we come into Shavasana, let's have any support you need. So if you want to have support, with the work we did in your hips, it might feel nice. You experiment. Do you want to be flat, or do you want to have some support underneath your knees? Do you want your legs or arms close or far from your midline? Breathe your way here, no matter what position you're taking, whatever support you need. The goal here is to feel the support of the earth and yield. So what does it feel like to give yourself over? The nervous system really gets a workout with balance poses. So let your nervous system relax now. See if you can feel that sense of dropping, calming. Let the exhales elongate just a little bit so that the feeling in your nervous system is calm. Melt your eyes, the windows of balance. See if you can just let them be soft. Breathe deeply.
Begin to deepen our breathing again. Feel your body rest on the floor. As you're ready, invite some movement here and there. Eventually finding your way onto your side and coming up to sit as you're ready. Place your palms together at your heart and just take a moment to offer your prayers, your intentions, your energy outward. Tom, we're all sending some love to Madison and to anybody else that needs some healing right now. This calm, centered energy, send it forth. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.